Let me ask you something. Did Chris Eubank Jr. actually win even a single round in this rematch against Conor Benn? Because watching this fight again, I'm not convinced he did. And here's the crazy part. Everybody's calling this a Conor Benn masterclass, but was it really that? Or did he just look better than he did in the first fight while still showing some major flaws? Because yes, Benn dominated, but he also threw some questionable shots many times when Eubank clinched excessively. And if you slow the fight down, you'll see moments where Benn's discipline began to come into question again, like it was in the first fight. So in this video, we're breaking all of it down by the 4 criteria that really matter in scoring boxing matches to determine whether Benn's performance was brilliance or just brutality. And if you enjoy detailed round-by-round scoring breakdowns by those criteria that really matter in scoring boxing, take 3 seconds to subscribe to my channel right now before we get started with round 1. I'll count us down. 3, 2, 1... Round 1, clean punching. In this round, it was very close. Conor Benn landed 7 clean punches and Chris Eubank Jr. landed 6. You can see them listed on your screen. Clean punching, 10-9, Conor Benn. Effective aggression. Conor Benn was substantially more effectively aggressive. He was initiating and moving strongly forward for the whole round. Chris Eubank Jr. was waiting for counters rather than initiating. Effective aggression, 10 points to Conor Benn, 8.5 to Chris Eubank Jr. Ring generalship. Conor Benn pushed the pace for the entire round. He set a tone where he was careful but still actively stalking with pressure. Chris Eubank clinched a few times to halt the action, but Conor Benn was right back at it after they were broken up. Chris Eubank did not do anything to change Benn's approach, and the clinching was indicative of his backward movement being self-preservation rather than setting traps. Ring generalship, 10 points to Conor Benn, 8.5 to Chris Eubank Jr. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in round 1 to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Conor Benn, ducking to Conor Benn, bobbing and weaving to Chris Eubank, parrying to Conor Benn, blocking to both fighters, footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to Chris Eubank Jr. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.8 points to Conor Benn and 8.664 points to Chris Eubank Jr. A 10-9 round in round 1 to Conor Benn by a very wide margin. Round 2, clean punching. In this round, Conor Benn lands 11 clean punches and Chris Eubank Jr. lands 6. You can see them all listed on your screen and when they happened. You'll notice some weird timings here though, and for some reason videos that I see on the Rings YouTube channel don't always have round timing, so I'm just using the timing of the video itself. That's why the timings look weird. Clean punching, 10-9, Conor Benn. Effective aggression. At 24:05 in the video, Chris Eubank with a powerful clinch that ends up with Conor Benn on the floor as he's trying to pull free from what seems like Eubank being scared of the power and trying to stop the action. At 25:22 in the video, Eubank with a kidney punch in the clinch. I'd give a soft warning there. 25:43, an intentional kidney punch after missing a rabbit punch by Conor Benn, who looks frustrated with all the clinching already. I'd give a hard warning for that one. Overall, a chasm with how much more effectively aggressive Conor Benn was and how nimble he was in avoiding Chris Eubank's few aggressive attempts. Effective aggression, 10 points Conor Benn, 8.5 Chris Eubank Jr. Ring generalship. Conor Benn controlled action and tone with in-and-out movement and doing everything with more conviction than Chris Eubank Jr., such that Eubank has to move away more as the round wore on, looking for counterpunch opportunities rather than implementing his own plan, and finding those opportunities less and less, unfortunately. I would warn Chris Eubank for excessive clinching in this round. Ring generalship, 10 points to Conor Benn, 8.5 to Chris Eubank Jr. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to both fighters, ducking to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to Chris Eubank, parrying to both fighters, blocking to both fighters, footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to Chris Eubank Jr. Overall, a very balanced defensive output by both fighters. If we take the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.743 points to Conor Benn and 8.693 points to Chris Eubank Jr. A 10-9 round in round 2 by a wide margin again for Conor Benn. And as we go through this fight, I'll give you my running score compared to that of the judges at ringside. They are Howard Foster, John Latham, and Marcus McDonald. Again, I had the round 10-9, and I have the fight now 20-18 Conor Benn. Howard Foster, John Latham, and Marcus McDonald also all gave that round to Conor Benn 10-9, and also have the fight 20-18 Conor Benn. Round 3, clean punching. In this round, Conor Benn barely outlands Chris Eubank Jr. 7 clean landed punches to 6. You can see them listed here, and the running total now 25 clean landed punches for Conor Benn, 18 for Chris Eubank Jr. Clean punching, 10-9 Conor Benn. Effective aggression. At 38:02 on the clock, Eubank with a right to the back, but while Conor Benn was turning, so no foul. At 30:08 in the video, Eubank tried to clinch again after ducking a Conor Benn punch, and Conor Benn kindly nudges him to the floor. Conor Benn was more effectively aggressive in the first minute, there was a lot of posturing by both fighters in the second minute, and Chris Eubank was more effectively aggressive in the third minute. Chris Eubank didn't let go of the arm clinch at 28:45 for a few seconds though. That's his last hard warning for excessive clinching before I start deducting. Effective aggression, 9 points to both fighters. Ring generalship. Chris Eubank Jr. was trying to stay away from Conor Benn toward the beginning of the round and slowly built up an approach of luring him in for counter punches. Overall, Conor Benn controlled action and tone for more of the round, even though Chris Eubank's plan did shine through a few times. Ring generalship, 10-9, Conor Benn. Let's talk defense, and again, here are all the defensive moves done in round 3 to avoid punches and when they happen. If we categorize them, I gave 8 points to both fighters for high guard, ducking to Conor Benn, bobbing and weaving to Chris Eubank Jr., parrying to Conor Benn, blocking to both fighters, footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to both fighters. If we take the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.448 points to Conor Benn and 8.857 points to Chris Eubank Jr., a 10-9 round in round 3 for Conor Benn. And I now have the fight 30-27 Conor Benn. Judge Howard Foster gave that round to Conor Benn and has it also 30-27. Judge John Latham gave that round to Chris Eubank Jr. and has it 29-28 Conor Benn. And Judge Marcus McDonald gave that round to Conor Benn 10-9 and has the fight 30-27 Conor Benn. Round 4, clean punching. In this round, Conor Benn lands 9 clean punches and Chris Eubank Jr. lands 5. You can see them listed here. The running total 34 for Conor Benn and 23 for Chris Eubank Jr. Clean punching 10-9 Conor Benn. Effective aggression. At 31:50 in the video, Conor Benn lands what looks like an elbow in the clinch to Chris Eubank, squarely in the gentleman's department. I'd give a hard warning for that one. At 32:32 on the clock, Eubank with a right to the back. I'd give a hard warning for that one as well. At 33:05 in the video, Chris Eubank looked to have landed his own low blow right to Conor Benn's future legacy. I'd give a last hard warning now for Eubank. Conor Benn initiated almost all of the action while Chris Eubank had a few good counters, but they were done as reactions. He was always waiting to see what Conor Benn would initiate and see if there was a counterpunch opportunity. Effective aggression, 10-9, Conor Benn. Ring generalship. Tone control was all Conor Benn. Chris Eubank tried to control action by clinching to slow Conor Benn down, but Benn was both cautious to reduce those opportunities and fought out of them better when they did happen. In fact, shoving Eubank a few feet away on one occasion, so despite Eubank's efforts, Benn still controlled action more. Ring generalship, 10 points to Conor Benn, 8.5 to Chris Eubank Jr. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in round 4 to avoid punches and when they happen. If we categorize them, I gave high guard to Eubank, ducking to Benn, bobbing and weaving to Eubank, parrying to both fighters, blocking to Benn, footwork to Benn, and clinching to Eubank. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.714 points to Conor Benn and 8.798 points to Chris Eubank Jr., a very comfortable win in round 4 for Conor Benn, 10-9. And I now have the fight 40-36 Conor Benn. All 3 judges at ringside also gave that round to Conor Benn. Judge Howard Foster has it also 40-36 Conor Benn. Judge John Latham has it 39-37 Conor Benn. And Judge Marcus McDonald has it 40-36 Conor Benn. Round 5, clean punching. In this round, Chris Eubank Jr. actually outlands Conor Benn finally, but only by 1 punch, 14-13. The running total in the fight, 47 for Conor Benn, 37 for Chris Eubank Jr. And it's really interesting because I'm pretty sure in their first fight, Chris Eubank Jr. had 1 round where he had 47 or 48 punches. It's taken him 5 rounds to still be 10 short of that. It's amazing the difference in the rematch. Clean punching, 10-9, Chris Eubank Jr. Effective aggression. Chris Eubank landed a punch at 36:10 in the video and then immediately clinched. He doesn't seem confident in his aggression. At 37:24 in the video, a low blow by Conor Benn. This is his last hard warning now. Conor Benn was pressing forward more, but Chris Eubank was busier with his hands, staying in the pocket and gaining confidence with more landed punches, including a few precise ones that Conor Benn didn't seem to expect to land. Conor Benn was a bit more explosive with his aggression, but Chris Eubank was more consistently throwing punches, a big departure from previous rounds. The clinch by Eubank at 36:11 in the video was excessively long holding though. I'd give a 1-point deduction now. Effective aggression, 10-9, Chris Eubank Jr. Ring generalship. Chris Eubank controlled action and tone more than Conor Benn in this round by setting a brand new tone where he stayed in the pocket and didn't escape very much. He used his reach and busy hands to keep Conor Benn thinking more than initiating, especially in the last minute. Ring generalship, 10-9, Chris Eubank Jr. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Chris Eubank, ducking to Chris Eubank, bobbing and weaving to Conor Benn, parrying to both fighters, blocking to Conor Benn, footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to Chris Eubank. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 8.943 points to Conor Benn and 9.686 points to Chris Eubank Jr., a pretty comfortable win in round 5 for Chris Eubank Jr. However, we talked about that deduction for excessive holding for Chris Eubank Jr., so rather than 10-9, Eubank ends up with a 9-9 round in round 5. And I now have the fight 49-45, Conor Benn. All 3 judges at ringside gave that round to Conor Benn somehow. I think this was the only one possible to give Eubank so far. Howard Foster has it 50-45, a shutout. John Latham has it 49-46, and Marcus McDonnell has it 50-45. Round 6, clean punching. In this round, Conor Benn lands 13 clean punches to Chris Eubank Jr.'s 11. Pretty close, but Conor Benn outdoes him. 60 in the fight so far for Conor Benn and 48 in the fight so far for Chris Eubank Jr. Clean punching, 10-9, Conor Benn. Effective aggression. At 41-42 in the video, Chris Eubank was rushing in low and Conor Benn showed some hospitality by guiding him directly to the floor again. No knockdown though. At 42-15 in the video, 2 kidney punches from Conor Benn in the clinch. I would take 1 point at this point. He's getting a little bit out of control. It was over 1 minute after Chris Eubank's last clinch, so no excessive clinching deduction for him. Conor Benn was aggressive with forward pressure. Chris Eubank was aggressive with punching after drawing Benn in. They were both aggressive in spots, but Conor Benn was more effective. He tired Eubank and moved him to the ground, and Chris Eubank seemed to be punching scared to keep Benn off of him at times, whereas Conor Benn was confidently attacking when he could. Effective aggression, 9.5 points Conor Benn, 9 points Chris Eubank Jr. Ring generalship. Conor Benn controlled the tone for the reasons described in the last section, but Chris Eubank Jr. controlled the action. Despite Conor Benn's effectiveness when he was able to be aggressive, there were long periods where Chris Eubank stopped Conor Benn from being able to get going with lateral movement, in and out movement, and sharp punches. Ring generalship, 9.5 points to both fighters. Let's talk defense, and again, here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave the high guard to Conor Benn, ducking to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to both fighters, parrying to Chris Eubank, blocking to both fighters, footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to Chris Eubank. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.493 points to Conor Benn and 9.031 points to Chris Eubank Jr. It should have been a 10-9 round for Conor Benn, but the 1 point deduction I mentioned makes it 9-9 in round 6. And I now have the fight 58-54, Conor Benn. Judge Howard Foster gave that round to Conor Benn and has it 60-54, still a shutout for Conor Benn. And judges John Latham and Marcus McDonnell both gave that round to Chris Eubank Jr. Judge Latham has it 58-56 Conor Benn, and Judge McDonnell has it 59-55 Conor Benn. Round 7, clean punching. In this round, Conor Benn lands 15 clean punches to Chris Eubank Jr.'s 13, again very close. The running total 75 for Conor Benn and 61 that I've seen for Chris Eubank Jr. Clean punching, 10-9 Conor Benn. Effective aggression. At 43-55 on the video, another kidney punch by Conor Benn. He just can't handle the frustration of being clinched by Eubank. Here are the clinch rules, just so we all know them. In inside fighting, clinching is natural. After getting rocked, clinching to survive is legal. Clinching every few seconds, legal. Clinching while punching, illegal. Holding and hitting, illegal. This was in fact 2 seconds after Eubank's last clinch, but Conor Benn ducked under Eubank's punch, ended up in a front headlock under Eubank's left arm, and was pinning down Eubank's right arm. This really looked like retaliation for the previous clinch. I have to deduct a point for this one. Effective aggression, 10-9 Conor Benn, but we'll deduct that point later. Ring generalship. Although Chris Eubank did fight well at times, his reflexes paled in comparison to the explosive Conor Benn, who was able to use his better speed to make more of an impact on action and tone. Ring generalship, 10-9 Conor Benn. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in round 7 to avoid punches and when they happen. If we categorize them, I gave high guard to both fighters, ducking to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to both fighters, parrying to Conor Benn, blocking to both fighters, footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to Chris Eubank. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.743 points to Conor Benn and 8.914 points to Chris Eubank Jr. And then each fighter had a point deducted on my card, so 9-8 in round 7 for Conor Benn. And I now have the fight 67-62, Conor Benn. Judge Howard Foster gave that round to Conor Benn and has it 70-63, still a shutout. Judge John Latham gave that round to Chris Eubank Jr. and has it 67-66, Conor Benn. And Judge Marcus McDonnell gave that round to Conor Benn and has it 69-64, Conor Benn. Round 8, clean punching. In this round, it was dead even. Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. both land 8 clean landed punches. The running total in the fight so far for Conor Benn, 83, for Chris Eubank Jr., 69. Clean punching, 10 points to both fighters. Effective aggression. At 49-19 in the video, Chris Eubank spits his gum shield. At 50-23, Eubank goes for a clinch, and Benn makes it his clinch and lands to the back. 1 point deduction for that one. Conor Benn was more effectively aggressive for more of the round. He pressed forward, backed Eubank up, cut off the ring, and threw hard, even wildly in spots. Chris Eubank did punch while backing away in spots to make it look like he wasn't fully running, but Benn did a better job in this category. The clinch at 50-22 in the video was excessive but perpetuated by both fighters, so I won't deduct for that. Effective aggression, 10-9, Conor Benn. Ring generalship. Chris Chris Eubank was fighting hard, especially toward the end of the round, but was certainly trying to survive in other spots. I feel the spitting of his gum shield was unprovoked and a time-buying tactic. He also seemed to glance up at the clock when the referee stopped the action to warn about the illegal tactics. These are all signs that Eubank was fighting within Benn's pace and tone and wanted a break from it soon. Ring generalship, 10-9, Conor Benn. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave high guard to both fighters, ducking to Conor Benn, bobbing and weaving to both fighters, parrying to Conor Benn, blocking to Chris Eubank, footwork to Chris Eubank, and clinching to both fighters. Taking the four scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.829 points to Conor Benn and 9.271 points to Chris Eubank Jr. A comfortable win in round 8 for Conor Benn. However, with the 1 point deduction, it becomes a 9-9 round. And I now have the fight 76-71, Conor Benn still comfortably ahead. Judge Howard Foster gave that round to Chris Eubank Jr. and has the fight 79-73, Conor Benn. Judge John Latham also gave it to Chris Eubank Jr. and has the fight 76-76, a draw. And Judge Marcus McDonald gave that round to Conor Benn and has the fight 79-73, Conor Benn. Round 9, clean punching. In this round, Chris Eubank Jr. outpunches Conor Benn 10 clean-landed punches to 9, just barely. The running total 92 for Conor Benn in the fight and 79 for Chris Eubank Jr. A total that could have been attained in their first fight in probably 2 rounds for Chris Eubank Jr. Way lower output this time around. Clean punching, 10-9, Chris Eubank Jr. Effective aggression, at 53-32 in the video, a rapid punch by Eubank Jr. while cornered and leaning away. I'd give a soft warning for that. At 54-12, holding and hitting by Eubank, a hard warning now. At 54-50 in the video, unintentional rapid punch by Eubank because Benn was moving, so I won't do anything about that one. Chris Eubank Jr. was aggressive for a very small portion of the round and was not effective from any kind of aggression. He was looking to time and counterpunch. Conor Benn was aggressive for most of the round and was effective in eliciting a defensive response. Effective aggression, 9.5 points Conor Benn, 8.5 points for Chris Eubank Jr. Ring generalship. Chris Eubank Jr. controlled action for a short while behind a good jab that kept Conor Benn at bay, but Conor Benn controlled the pressing action and in and out movement before and after that for at least 3/4 of the round. He controlled tone for the full round. Ring generalship, 10 points Conor Benn, 8.5 Chris Eubank Jr. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in round 9 to avoid punches and when they happen. If we categorize them, the high guard goes to Benn, ducking to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to Eubank, parrying to both fighters, blocking to Eubank, footwork to Benn, and clinching to Benn. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.281 points to Conor Benn and 8.936 points to Chris Eubank Jr., a 10-9 round in round 9 for Conor Benn. And I now have the fight 86-80, Conor Benn. Judge Howard Foster gave that round to Conor Benn and has it 89-82. Judge John Latham also gave the round to Conor Benn and has it 86-85, Conor Benn. And Judge Marcus McDonald gave that round to Chris Eubank Jr. and has it 88-83, Conor Benn. Round 10, clean punching. In this round, 13-13, an even clean punching output for both fighters, 105 in the fight for Conor Benn, 92 for Chris Eubank Jr. Clean punching, 10 points go to both fighters. Effective aggression. At 58-03 in the video, it looked like Conor Benn guided Chris Eubank's head into a head clash. I'm not sure though, so no deduction. Chris Eubank Jr. seemed to want to minimize engagement both from himself and from Conor Benn, which he did well in the first half of the round, but Conor Benn's aggression became more effective as the round progressed, especially in the last 45 seconds or so. Effective aggression, 9 points Conor Benn, 8 points Chris Eubank Jr. Ring generalship. Chris Eubank was able to use movement and jabs effectively to control action and tone for more of the round than Conor Benn. He kept Conor Benn guessing rather than initiating for almost 3/4 of the round. Ring generalship, 10-9, Chris Eubank Jr. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in round 10 to avoid punches and when they happened. If we categorize them, I gave high guard to both fighters, ducking to Eubank Jr., bobbing and weaving to Conor Benn, parrying to both fighters, blocking to Eubank Jr., footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to Conor Benn. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.243 points to Conor Benn and 9.181 points to Chris Eubank Jr. I would call this a razor-thin margin of victory in round 10, but it's for Conor Benn, 10-9. And I now have the fight 96-89, Conor Benn. Howard Foster gave that round to Conor Benn and has it 99-91, Conor Benn. Judge John Latham also gave the round to Conor Benn and has it 96-94, Conor Benn. And Judge Marcus McDonald also gave that round to Conor Benn and has it 98-92, Conor Benn. Round 11, clean punching. A pretty big disparity in this one, 14 clean-landed punches for Conor Benn to only 6 for Chris Eubank Jr., 119 in the fight for Conor Benn, 98 for Chris Eubank Jr. Clean punching, 10-8, Conor Benn. Effective aggression. Punch to the back by Conor Benn after Eubank Jr. clinches. Retaliatory fouls are not allowed, 1 point deduction. However, Eubank held the clinch left arm for 6 seconds. That's excessive holding, so a 1 point deduction for Eubank Jr. as well. Then we had 2 more kidney punches from Conor Benn after Chris Eubank had a perfectly normal clinch attempt. Another point deduction for Benn for that one. He needs to control himself now. Poor Eubank seems so shredded from the weight cut that you can see space between him and his trunks in some of these images. Conor Benn initiated a clinch later on and then got frustrated when Chris Eubank countered with his own clinch, something Conor Benn has done multiple times in this fight. Effective aggression, 10-8, Conor Benn. Ring generalship. Eubank's arm came to rest on Benn's shoulder after a missed punch. It looked like Ben thought that was the start of a clinch, so he clinched, which made Eubank clinch for real. Eubank then started letting go, but then Ben went for a rabbit punch, which made Eubank re-clinch, but Ben clinched just as hard, all until the ref separated them. What a mess. Both were equally at fault, so I'm not giving any deductions here. Later on in the round, Conor Benn momentarily initiated a clinch on the pursuing Chris Eubank and then throws him to the ropes and the floor for no good reason. You could make a case for a disqualification for Ben at this point. He's really out of control in spots. Ring generalship, 10 points to Conor Benn, 8.5 to Chris Eubank Jr. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in this round to avoid punches and when they happened. Categorizing them, high guard goes to Eubank, ducking to both fighters, bobbing and weaving to Eubank, parrying to Eubank, blocking to both fighters, footwork to Benn, and clinching to Eubank. Taking the four scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.629 points to Conor Benn and 8.231 points to Chris Eubank Jr., a wide margin of victory in round 11 for Conor Benn. However, we then have the 2 points deducted from Conor Benn and the 1 point deducted from Chris Eubank Jr., so we end up with an 8-8 round in round 11. And I now have the fight a blowout, 104 for Conor Benn to 97 for Chris Eubank Jr. All three judges at ringside gave that round to Conor Benn. Judge Howard Foster has it 109 to 100 Conor Benn. Judge John Latham has it 106-103 Conor Benn. And Judge Marcus McDonald has it 108-101 Conor Benn. Take a second to drop a comment below right now on how you have this fight scored so far going into the last round. Round 12, clean punching. In this round, a small margin difference, despite what happens with the knockdowns later on. 12 clean landed punches by Conor Benn to 11 clean landed punches for Chris Eubank Jr. The total in the fight for Conor Benn, 131, and the total for Chris Eubank Jr., 109. Clean punching, 10-9, Conor Benn. Effective aggression. Given the 2 knockdowns by Conor Benn in this round, effective aggression goes to him by a wide margin. No argument to be made there. Effective aggression, 10-8, Conor Benn. Ring generalship. Chris Eubank Jr. was absolutely controlling pace and tone for at least the first 2 minutes of this round, believe it or not. But then Conor Benn caught him with the first knockdown punch and controlled those things more dramatically for the last minute. Ring generalship, 9 points to both fighters. Let's talk defense, and here are all the defensive moves done in the last round to avoid punches and when they happen. If we categorize them, the high guard goes to Chris Eubank Jr., ducking to Eubank Jr., bobbing and weaving to Eubank Jr., parrying to Eubank Jr., blocking to Eubank Jr., footwork to Conor Benn, and clinching to Eubank Jr. Taking the 4 scoring criteria together, the algorithm gave 9.367 points to Conor Benn and 8.819 points to Chris Eubank Jr., so Conor Benn would have won this round even without the knockdowns, but with the 2 knockdowns, 10-7, Conor Benn. And now the time has come, the time you've all been waiting for, the time that we discover the answer to the question, did Chris Eubank Jr. actually win a single round in his rematch against Conor Benn? And the answer is, with the point deductions that I had, no, but point deductions notwithstanding because there weren't any official point deductions, yes, Chris Eubank Jr. won 1 round, and it was round 5, the one you see on your screen right here. So of course, the next logical question would be, were any of the rounds close enough that they could have gone the other way? Well, looking at the margin of victory for every round here on the screen, the only one that was close was round 9, and a razor-thin one was round 10. That one went to Conor Benn. So if he would have given those rounds to Conor Benn instead, I would have had the fight 112 to 106, Conor Benn, still a blowout. And for those of you out there who are screaming that I shouldn't be taking away points that weren't officially taken, even though I score fights the way they should have been scored, I got you covered anyway. What would the score have been if I had not taken away any of those deductions? Well, I took away 5 points from Conor Benn in this fight and 3 points from Chris Eubank Jr., so it would have been 119 to 107. And that being said, we award the Golden Star for judging the right way in this fight to Howard Foster, who had it 119-107. He didn't take away any points, of course, because he can't since the referee didn't, but deductions notwithstanding, Howard Foster had this fight scored correctly. 1 round to Chris Eubank Jr., not the one I picked, and the rest of the rounds to Conor Benn, so congratulations, Howard Foster, for getting the score right on. And now having a look at the bottom of your screen, you can see some interesting statistics. The maximum number of punches landed in any round, 15 by Conor Benn, 14 by Chris Eubank Jr., very close to each other. The minimum landed in any round was 7 by Conor Benn and 5 by Chris Eubank Jr., also very close. The average number of punches landed, 11 for Conor Benn and 9 for Chris Eubank Jr., and the total clean punches landed in this fight, 131 for Conor Benn to 109 for Chris Eubank Jr. So that leads us to our final question of the day. Did Conor Benn put on a masterclass in his rematch with Chris Eubank Jr., or was he just better than last time? Well, let's have a look at a few different metrics from the fights compared to each other. If we look at the 4 scoring criteria that really matter, that define how well he fought, Conor Benn had a huge improvement in clean punching in Fight 2 compared to Fight 1, 9.833 compared to 8.333. Effective aggression, a substantial increase there from 9.375 to 9.667. Ring generalship, same thing, substantial increase from 9.250 rating to 9.708 for the fight overall. And then he went down in defense from 9.107 overall in Fight 1 to 8.631 in Fight 2. But of course, when you're putting out more offense, you're putting out many times less defense. Aggregating all 4 categories together, he was rated at an 8.980 in the algorithm in Fight 1 and a 9.519 in Fight 2. Now, you can argue Chris Eubank Jr. dominated clean punching by a much wider margin in Fight 1 than Conor Benn did in Fight 2. However, Conor Benn dominated effective aggression and ring generalship by a wider margin in Fight 2 than Chris Eubank did in Fight 1. Defense ended up being dead even in Fight 2, both with an 8.631 rating. And so to answer the question, did Conor Benn put on a masterclass in the second fight? Well, based on this data and based on the fact he only gave up 1 round, you could make that argument, sure. He does need to get control of himself with the retaliatory illegal punches. How did you have it scored? I felt like there was dominance but not perfection. Chris Eubank Jr., who really didn't look himself, still did a lot of good things in there in the second fight. So let me know in the comments below, was it a masterclass in this outcome? Did you see a single round you'd give to Eubank in this fight? And do you think Benn's flaws actually matter at this level? Drop your thoughts below because I know this one's going to be debated. And if you love these detailed breakdowns that I'm pretty confident you can't find anywhere else, make sure and take 3 seconds to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. Popping up on your screen now are 2 links. The one on the left is another great detailed who really won breakdown, and the one on the right is my scoring algorithm explained so you can learn to score like a pro. Catch you again next time.